Hi everyone! I could not be more excited to announce today's video. I have traveled out of the country, out of Jorvik, because I am on the hunt for a new horse. I'm going to be looking for a dressage stallion to import back to Jorvik with me. The main goal with this new horse is to get out to dressage competitions and be a competitive duo. Eventually, it would be my dream to have a stud program at the Cosmic Equestrian Center and have a little foal to train up. But without further ado, let's head out to our first destination. On this horse shopping trip, I am traveling through the British Isles as they have a number of prestigious dressage stables throughout the area with some incredible stallions available. Our first horse ads led us to this distinguished Frisian farm called the Royal Ebony Stables, where they produce up to Grand Prix level Frisians, and one of which is Dante, a 17-hand high, 12-year-old stud. Now, he was 5,000 over my 35,000 shilling budget. But if he's my dream horse, I wasn't gonna pass him up. The pictures did him no justice. He was even more gorgeous in person. Although I was a little intimidated by his size, I will say he had this gentle giant demeanor, like he wouldn't even hurt a fly. The barn owners actually tacked him up for me. I must say, there wasn't a whole lot to report. He seemed to be very respectful for space. He was just very sensible and quiet. And when it was time to hop on, I just about needed a leg up because 17 hands is no joke. Typically, I wouldn't consider getting a horse this tall. But since he has such a calm demeanor, I would feel really comfortable handling him. And then I got to warming him up, which didn't take long at all because he is so fit. Immediately, I noticed how supple this horse was. There are a lot of horses that are stiffer going one direction or find it easier to pick up a lead on a certain rein. I just didn't feel like this was at all an issue for Dante. He also had perfect impulsion and moved forward willingly away from my leg aids without running off, which was great to see. In our warm-up, I also did some changes of pace in the trot. So we did a working trot, and then I also tried out his absolutely gorgeous extended trot. And he kept very consistent rhythm. He had these incredibly floaty strides. It felt like we were dancing across the arena. He was always attentive and really paying attention to my seat. I didn't have to have much of a contact at all. He was very light in the reins. He was just such a relaxed ride, very calm and confident in himself. I mean, I just can't stop gushing about this horse. And cherry on top, this horse can do a mean canter pirouette. However, I have never done a canter pirouette. In order to do this move, I focused on getting a nice active canter, and then all I had to do was sit slightly on my inside seat bone, and I looked around my turn, and then supported him with my outside rein, and opened up with my inside rein to guide him around the turn. All of which I just learned how to do today. Simply the fact that I was able to do this as someone who's never done a move like that before reassured me that this horse is one that's gonna look after his rider. He made me feel like I was a Grand Prix dressage rider. Now at this point, I was already very impressed, but then his owners threw me a curveball and said that he goes nicely in a bitless bridle. So they brought out a hackamore, popped that on him, and said, have a go. I was a little nervous at first. I was expecting him to get frisky, but he didn't go crazy. He didn't run off. He was very respectful of me and my aides, and it just re-emphasized to me how cool this horse is. I mean, what a dreamy horse, such a nice conformation. He's got impeccable breeding. I just have to decide if he's worth those extra shillings over my budget, but nevertheless, the day did not end there, and we had more stallions to trial. Still at Ebony Farms, it was time to try Pharaoh, a much more compact 8-year-old stallion. Still a Frisian, but he did have a much different build and conformation than Dante. He was incredibly gorgeous and had the cutest white markings. His size made him less intimidating, but his manners did not. Tacking up, he was so pushy, in your face, and also incredibly expressive. I don't think I've ever seen a horse with such a big personality as this Frisian. Okay, I will admit, it was kind of cute. When I got on him, I noticed this horse was more of an anxious ride, which is not my favorite because, of course, I prefer the chill vibes. This could be because someone new was riding him. There's lots of reasons why horses get anxious, but he was just constantly playing with the bit in his mouth, which is just fine, but but he was also pulling the reins out of my hands and just generally being a little bit stressy, which I wouldn't have expected from such a high-level dressage horse, but like I said, it could have been an off day for him. Nonetheless, I would prefer a horse that's steady in his mind, and even if someone new is riding or it's windy or whatever new circumstance comes up, is confident enough to be able to handle those situations with grace. On to the positives though. I loved Pharaoh's canter. He had the most beautiful rhythmic strides that just felt like a rocking horse. He really held himself together, and with each step, whether that was in walk or trot, he really picked up his feet and put 110% effort in. I did notice that it took a lot of work to collect him. He was showing off his lovely extended canter, so even though he was smaller than Dante, it felt like a lot more horse for me to handle. He also showed off his remarkable canter pirouette, which was again incredible to ride. It felt so fancy. While I did love trying Pharaoh, overall, I'm not sure I gelled with him as much as I did Dante, but it still gives me something to consider for my options. Next, I went to a place called Summit Dressage, which is very well known for training top competition horses. There, I would be trying Valentino, a Grand Prix Dutch warmblood stallion. Although he was on the older side at 17 years old, I still wanted to give this head turner a try. And a head turner this horse was. He had the most stunning dapples and the shiniest coat with a beautiful build and conformation. As soon as we started our ride, I could feel that this horse was such a powerhouse. He took super big steps with every stride and collected himself so well. You could tell that this horse had a wealth of experience under his belt. He knew his job inside out and responded to even my most subtle cues with precision and grace. I got the feel he was more of a sensitive horse, which to me just means that you really have to be paying attention to what aids you're giving when you're riding and just be confident, which I can definitely be for him. Valentino had an amazing extended trot that at first I couldn't really slow the tempo of, but once I picked up a closer contact, I got the hang of it. I slowly felt like we were clicking. He had some pretty fancy buttons, so it was a challenge to figure them out to begin with. I even attempted to perform a piaffe on him, which felt like dancing on the spot. It was just so much power beneath me. It was pretty incredible to sit. Now, something to note about Valentino is that he has hock arthritis. It is manageable, but there would be a maintenance aspect to his care, supplements, hock injections, and limitations to the amount of work he could do. Although at this particular facility, the horses actually didn't get any turnout. I think there was maybe 1 or 2 small paddocks that they could go out in every now and again. Movement is incredibly essential to joint health, and if he had turnout, that might help manage his pain and stiffness. So that is something to think about. All in all, I really did like this horse. My only concern is his age and maintenance. Last but not least, I visited the Rosewood Estate to try a Belgian warmblood stallion, Theodore. This guy was different compared to the other horses I tried, as he's not only a dressage horse, but also a jumper. Theo was stunning with a beautiful conformation and a lovely top line. He's definitely one that is built for the eventing ring though. I didn't get as much clips as I would have liked of him. It was a long day and I was getting pretty tired out, but this horse was energetic, enthusiastic, and at times a bit hot-headed. This stallion had a lot of spirit, which is why I think he thrives as a jumping horse as well as a dressage horse, because he really channeled that energy into focus. I think that his enthusiasm and drive to work really is what makes this horse such an impressive competitor, because he is another that has a really magnificent show record behind him. I just have to decide if I want that kind of horse. I did end up getting to jump today, and he had an incredible jump. He was super scopy and he was very strong and kind of pulled through the bit at times. As you can see here, he was flying through the jumps at a gallop, even though I was trying to collect him up. I could definitely tell that he would require a very experienced rider, which I feel like I could be for him with time and training. While this horse is not my dream dressage stallion, he would make a great eventing stallion and stud nonetheless. Whew, I've ridden so many horses today. They've all been the most stunning, athletic stallions, and I must admit, this decision is not one that is going to be easy, but I do have one or two particular stallions in mind that I feel like I really clicked with. I'm gonna have to review all this footage and really think over what horse would suit me best. Leave your opinion on what horse you think would be the next great new addition to the Cosmic Equestrian Center. Subscribe to be a part of our barn family. Until the new stallion reveal, see you guys then.
Fell in love in Minnesota, fell apart south of Salt Lake.